people come to your media house to look at content. The only thing media houses have done in this country is they have invested heavily in news content because it's appointed viewing. But there's so much more that's out there. There's so many formats that we can actually explore.
Good seeing you.
Good to see you, my man.
How things?
Very bad. Can't complain.
Good. First, thanks for making time. I wanted us to have a discussion around what's happening in the in our industries.
Yeah.
And just to get people to give them what's happening.
Yes.
From an intro perspective, for audience who don't know about you, a brief intro about yourself and your people.
Yeah. My name is Joel Rao. I've stopped going by the term that I've been going with simply because of everything that I've been involved with. I want to consider myself now as a serial entrepreneur. However, I'm a CEO at Dentsu, looking after all of Dentsu's digital brands that are involved in e-commerce, involved in customer experience management, involved in performance marketing. What we do at Dentsu is that we take creativity that's tapped from culture, we infuse it with data and power with technology to innovate for impact, structurally innovate for impact in our industry.
Okay.
That's what we do.
Interesting. When I think of the media, advertising, technology space,
yes,
you come top of mind in terms of what you've been able to do. And today is basically, to go deep into that sector, what's happening.
Yes.
And top of mind is ideally the media landscape.
Yes.
Not just in Kenya, but across the world.
Yes.
And then so, especially in the work you've been involved in it across the world from Japan, I think you've been in existence for so many years.
Yes.
Just shape for us what's happening in the media landscape from the transition from traditional media to the digital media and what's happening around it.
I mean, that transition has been really, really interesting. And I always tell you this, we are very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to be existing in a lifetime whereby we saw, the internet coming into play. We saw TV becoming big. Cable TV was big when I was growing up. And then the internet came in. And then social media came in and changed everything. And now we are seeing a lot happening with generative AI and the rise of AI-driven media houses, to say the least. But to your question, I think one of the things that we've noted is consumer behavior has obviously changed. And I want to say, if I was to put my finger on it, the pandemic was actually a catalyst for these changes in consumption. So a lot of people have moved away from, print media, for example, to focusing on digital media. A lot of news is consumed on X, it's consumed on TikTok. A lot of people are consuming news on digital sites. We are seeing a lot of movement from appointed viewing on TV to viewing that's on demand. So the only times, before when we were growing up, we used to wait for the 9 o'clock news to come. And now I can get my news then I go, as we go along. And it's on demand. Those behaviors have actually shifted the way, we also look at advertising to consumers because we have to meet them where they are. We've seen the emergence of the influencer and the content creator, and content creation becoming a career on its own, where people are beginning to believe more what a peer would tell them as opposed to what a brand would tell them. And we've seen a lot of these endorsements happening. Obviously, brand endorsements have been there from before, way before the internet was there, but we're beginning to see it taking root in a different way. And so that's one of the things that we've noticed on our side. And data has played a very big role in allowing us to be able to, to use this to be able to drive our agenda. Yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of the media landscape, a lot of the traditional media houses have had a difficult time,
Yes.
translating the revenues that they had on the, on the print side,
Yes.
on the cable side, to the it doesn't necessarily mean that the bigger audience you have on digital translates to bigger revenues.
Yes.
It needs a bit more innovative thinking around how do they,
Exactly.
make money and innovate around that.
Yeah.
Do you see a recovery path for the traditional media houses?
I think there's a recovery path for media houses, traditional media houses to be precise, that are willing to adapt. So let's make something very clear, Eric. Consumers don't come to Kenyan Wall Street to look for ads. What do they come to do? They come and look for content.
Yeah, insights.
Yeah. They want to be enriched. Content is the name of the game right now. And it has always been just that they never paid attention to the formats in which content has evolved. Attention spans are much less. People are not really willing to read through articles. They want to get videos, short snippets, very quick. And TikTok has actually played a big role on that. It's the fastest growing social media platform with about 10 plus million monthly active users in Kenya alone. Attention span on TikTok is the highest in Kenya compared to any other country in the world. People are spending more time on TikTok than any other part in the world from Kenya. It just goes a long way to tell you that people are just doom scrolling. And because of that, one of the things that we have realized from our perspective is that media houses need to actually change. And so, yes, media houses need to invest in the quality of the content that comes through. The media houses that have had the best content are the ones that are winning. But then you also need to meet the consumer where they are. It's no longer about a point of view. It's on demand. How do we actually get there? So that's really the genesis of this change, and a lot of it is going to happen. Yeah.
Interesting. From a client side,
Yes.
like how they adapting, number one, to meeting this consumer scenario. So think of the new innovative ways getting to influencers using AI tools, for example, create proper marketing campaigns. Like what are clients doing for money?
One of the things I want to appreciate is that clients are first and foremost using a lot of data now. And allow me to segment it in that way. So there's the first aspect of having your own first-party data, your own internal data that you've had. And then more importantly, there's the second and third-party data. So the first-party data, clients are using it to inform the decisioning around what messaging will be sent to their clients, either to upsell or cross-sell them. So if I was a bank, my existing to bank customers, I want to see how I can actually upsell and cross-sell certain services that they may not have. I will take advantage of it. So a lot of decisioning is being made from first-party data. And I appreciate that this is something that is happening right now. But more importantly, because of the change in consumer behavior, second and third-party sources like Meta, like Google, TikTok, Ipsos, have been able to come and let us know, like, this is where consumers are spending the most time. This is how they're consuming their behavior. Within Dentsu, we have our own proprietary data set that looks at the psychographic behavior of customers and why they make the decisions they make. We use that data to then also inform our advertising campaigns. And then look at the cultural context in which consumers are in. In this case, the cultural context is that things are just hard. We have cost of living has gone up. People are becoming a bit more stringent with their shillings. And so we're looking to see how we can actually leverage on that cultural nuance to be able to actually drive that. And so when you combine all these aspects and power it to the technology, I think it goes a long way in the way we've made things different for our clients.
Interestingly, a conversation I was having with a friend, the rise of social media and how brands now think of being their own distribution channels.
Yes.
But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you being say, the brand having their own printer, like page or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't track its audience.
Yes.
From your side, like how would you gauge an effectiveness of a proper either ad campaign or forms to your
That's a very interesting question, Eric, because think about it, yeah? You're a brand, you have built an audience on X, you've built an audience on Meta, on Instagram. Does that audience really belong to you? Or does it belong to Meta?
They belong to it.
Exactly. There's only a certain level of insights that you can actually get for them, but the real audience actually belongs to them. And increasingly, what these big tech companies have done is that they have been able to let brands know that, hey, if you put out content, it's not going to organically appear on those pages, on those consumer pages that follow you. It's only going to be a certain percentage. So initially it used to be whatever you put out, the bigger your community, whatever you put out, it goes to them. Now you have to pay when to advertise to that community. And so when you think about those models that have changed, the changes in the algorithms, I think it's at 1% of your consumers can actually see organic content on a lot of these platforms. You still have to pay to promote them. Then comes in the emergence of actual human creators who are not restricted by these algorithm changes. And so what tends to happen is that you have brands now collaborating more with creators to be able to actually drive that. And then the beauty is that because the creator has emerged right now within the industry, it brings a human element to the brand. It's human engagement for brand. It makes it believable whatever they're trying to push. So when you talk about distribution channels, it's absolutely right. Like this, brands are beginning to see these changes. Some of them are adapting. Some of them are still stuck in their old ways, but we're still pushing to be able to get this going.
Interestingly, you spoke about the creative economy and especially on the creative economy and the emergence of AI, for example.
Yeah.
My interest is more on the creative economy and what's happening on that. So what you're seeing around having now people become their own brands, they have no limits in terms of what they can create. I want you to briefly just mention like what trends are you seeing in the creative, especially from a local economy.
Yes.
So because my view is that that's the next phase of brand and advertising, in my view.
Yes.
Secondly, it's on data. You mentioned before that clients are there, either they're on internal the data, you have a third data.
Yes.
But when it comes, for example, Gen AI, for a proper model to work, it needs massive amount of data, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we effectively, like, how are you guys using data, for example, to create, advertising campaigns, proper targeting, to be able to reach the right kind of target?
Yeah. So those are two questions. So allow me to tackle one after the other. So on the let me start with the data side. This is my analogy of data. Do you remember in the olden days when you had people starting a fire with you drop two sticks together and then smoke would come out and then fire would that's how I look at data. You need different sources of data to rub it together to create a fire. That's how I look at it. What we try and do is we try and look at those different sources of data to speak to what we want to try and achieve. And what generative AI has been able to do effectively is it has allowed us to be able to analyze that data faster. So let me give you a scenario. I was going to meet a company, and I want to mention which one. I was meeting the CEO of the company, and I wanted to understand what future business opportunities the overall business would focus on that would allow us to then also focus our marketing efforts there. Believe it or not, I took the financial reports for the last 3 years, and I loaded it to a language model. And I prompted the language model to think of me as the CEO of that company. And if I was to make a business decision around what I need to focus on, based off of the last 3 years' financial results, what that would look like. Now, the business model, the language model rather, spit out results for me based off of the analysis it did. In minutes, it looked at all the reports, all the financials, looked at what segments of the business are growing, what are stagnating, what's declining. And it quickly pointed out to me that number one, consumers in their homes will need a connection, and a stable connection for that one that's affordable. As far as this business is concerned, they need to invest more there. And from the data that we saw, it was a growing part of their business. It wasn't a big focus here. If you look at the marketing spend that was given, it wasn't like a big priority for them. And we said, okay, fine, if home connectivity is going to be the next big thing, then you need to allocate more spend. But then I put in a question, I said, look at companies like AT&T. Look at companies like Viacom. What has been the biggest distractor or the biggest disruptor within that model around this? And this is way before Elon started was available here.
So speak on that thing.
Yes. And this is actually last year when I was doing this prompt. It was even before GPT-4 was out. I did this prompt last year, and it was like August last year, and the prompt said the biggest disruptor for this business opportunity would be satellite businesses. And it started giving me analysis of how other telcos have been disrupted by this. And then I asked, what is the biggest opportunity? This is the biggest disruptor. What is the opportunity? And the model accurately predicted that if different companies, for example, Starlink, there are many satellite internet companies that are out there, would have a unique partnership with this telco so that it can be its unique distributor in market. Therein lies the opportunity, because still at the end of the day, home connectivity is still going to be the thing. Now, this was something that was done in a 30-minute window, because I had to think of the prompt, I had to immerse myself there, I had to prepare for that meeting. And in as much as, this was the case, we never anticipated what happened in June 25th this year, whereby there was a blackout and suddenly sales for Starlink went up. We did not anticipate that. I'm saying all this, Eric, to illustrate the fact that artificial intelligence has just made it easier and faster for us to be able to crunch data. It has made us be more efficient and effective in our decisioning that's based on data. And that's what we do. And we also then start feeding it with cultural nuances, like, what's the most streamed music on Spotify? How does that cultural nuance or the lyrics of that song influence a marketing idea that we have? And you can begin to see how you agree with those things. So you can begin to see how the different sticks wrapping each other, can generate a fire. And that's really what excites me in this age.
Interesting. Speaking of ideally the satellite internet, and we've seen especially the emergence of Starlink in Kenya.
Yeah.
And what you see online is it's a bit people more frustrated with the traditional life providers.
Yes.
And ideally, I tend to think of it this way. Think of a large telco that has spent billions and billions in their CapEx to put the cables,
Yes.
the cables, the infrastructure side.
Yeah.
But then someone out of California or Texas has the ability to
To position this.
satellite properly, and then offer satellites. Even because I see the opportunity on mobile,
Yes.
cell to mobile,
Yes.
satellite to mobile. I mean,
Yes.
and a good example is, I know two companies. One is a company that was already known today. Share price up by 1,300%.
Yes.
From $2 to $28 to $36.
Yeah.
Given that they just partnered with, I think, a telco in the US.
Yes.
Then got an investment of 100 M through Viacom.
Yes.
And then, but people are actually watching what's the
opportunity. Exactly. Yeah.
Then I tend to think of it, which is ideally, if I was a leader of a business or a telco, what would I do differently? One, I also asked a few of my friends is, you spend billions putting infrastructure, then there's an opportunity to partner with a leading satellite provider,
Yes.
for example, like Starlink.
Yes.
Would you forgo this and use what you already have?
Yeah.
So my thinking is it's around how innovative and how fast. It depends on the leaders of that particular business.
Yeah.
And ideally, they might see it as not a disruptor, but in a short time, it's going to be a big disruptor.
Exactly.
And my question would be like, what does the future look for? Like these big telcos that have spent billions and billions, to put in infrastructure. Like, is that going to be an impact? Like, there's going to be a disruption,
That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Are they going to put bottlenecks through regulatory, through regulators and all that? What's the future for leading telcos? Is it partnership, or they have to, is it partnerships, or will they just? I mean, what do you think? If you have to be on the shoes of a lot.
So first and foremost, yes, partnership is the way to go. This is how I'd like to illustrate it. And I've seen this happening when I was working in Mexico. I worked for Telefonica Movistar. And when the internet was coming through, it was the same problem that, they were facing. Carlos Sim and the team are dealing with this. One of the really interesting illustrations is this. I would like you to think of the telco as a pipe. All right? And its ability to deliver water from point A to point B. And basically, the internet services that they've been able to provide is that pipe. Now, consumers, on the other hand, are expecting water, i.e. content, to stream through. What Starlink has done is that it has been able to provide this pipe in different places. So I have access to the pipe, either way, at a cheaper cost. The telco has the opportunity to your point, venture into a potential partnership. Now, I was also reading the same report you're talking about. Elon had put out a tweet, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, saying that he is looking to partner with individual tech telcos in each country, one per country. If I'm a telco CEO here, I think that's an opportunity that I should be looking at, number one. But that's not really where the big opportunity is, because this wave has happened before. AT&T bought out a big media in the early to mid 2000s. I need to get my dates right. And what they did is that they focused on content. And yes, you can keep on saying you're a technology company, and yes, you have a lot of data, you provide a lot of tech services to the industry, but the real opportunity is the content side of things. So I'll be looking at unique formats that have never existed here. You look at brands like Lionsgate, look at what Reliance in India has done. He has a telco and he's now heavily invested in media and content. So you look at all this media, big media houses, sports. You look at all this thing, yeah, we can be sponsored in sports, but are we sponsoring the broadcasting aspect of it? Right? I always say, I used to work for NASPA's, in 2012, 2013, 2014. And Naspers owns MultiChoice. It owns the internet holding companies, MultiChoice Internet Holdings, MIH Africa.
Yeah, and a significant stake in Tencent.
And significant stake in Tencent. I remember there was a time I was sitting with Kusbecker, who was the chairman of Naspers, and he said if he had a chance to provide what we used to call triple play, internet, satellites, because they were doing the dish, and so ISP, satellite, and multi-choice offering, to be a game changer.
Interesting.
Are you seeing that? Yeah.
Because again, that brings me to just my final thoughts. Your final thoughts on what you think. Ideally, it's a combination of, because I usually ask myself, if I was a leader of a telco company, if I was a leader of a media, of a big traditional media company,
Yes.
like what would I do different? I think he had the vision, and that's what he exactly did, and he invested. But
He invested in Tencent when Tencent was nothing. It was a bunch of kids in a cyber cafe.
Yeah, and that ended up accounting for like the significant part of their market cap.
Exactly.
And when you look at locally, someone have asked, like, what would you have done differently if you did one media company? Assuming you're in the shoes of a leading tech company, or a leading traditional media house.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do differently?
Let me start with the traditional media house, because I think we talked a bit about the telecom. The traditional media house, I would primarily focus on enriching my content. People come to your media house to look at content. The only thing media houses have done in this country is they have invested heavily in news content because it's appointed viewing. But there's so much more that's out there. There's so many formats that we can actually explore. Formats that, you remember when a Ninja Warrior appeared out of nowhere, it was such a phenomenal thing. And that changed that industry then. What are we doing differently here? So I'd focus on enriching content. And it takes having the right investor set to be able to actually drive those conversations, to be able to be able to actually take that, and not just relying on broadcast, but heavily investing in mediums that would, or content that would actually be pushed on the internet, on social, on your own platforms, apps, and so on and so forth. So I look at that, and then once you've captured the consumers, then you can start pushing advertising. So the problem is right now is that everyone is looking at advertiser-funded models or subscription-based models. Now, I'm not sure what the numbers look like around what the traditional media houses have been doing with the digital subscriptions. I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm yet to get the figures, but I would imagine it's not as big as it used to be when you're selling papers. That would be my hypothesis, because people are just not used to that yet. It will get there, I'm not sure about that. So that's the first thing. I would reduce also on some of my overheads and leverage on artificial intelligence to be able to do this. There's a media house in Russia that has actually looked at this model very, very critically, where they even have AI-based news anchors to be able to do analysis. You remember what I talked about AI before and how it helped to do a lot of analysis in a few minutes? The same model. It was very knowledgeable. You use that to enrich your content. So as a traditional media house, I'd invest heavily in my digital infrastructure to be able to drive that. And then over and above that, look at wholesome experiences. And media houses are doing that right now. So you see a media house has radio, has TV, but they'd also do events. They'll engage consumers one-on-one. Those consumer engagements cannot be what they have always been. A track, presenters behind the track, we dance. We have to innovate beyond that. What that looks like, more than happy to get paid to give them ideas. That is on the media side. On the telco side, partnerships is going to be the name And partnering in content in content. Our partner a lot more in driving content value, not in the way it has been done so far. There are different ways to do it. And over and above that, then, the example of Starlink I can give, such unique partnerships to enhance your own services. Because at the end of the day, culturally, in Kenya today, a lot of people are tired. A lot of people are holding on to their money. It's we have a cash crunch. We are financially strained in many ways. People are looking for affordable options. People are looking for affordable options that gives them value, more value. And if I realize that, hey, I've been paying this amount of money for my subscription and I can get more for less, guess what? I'll go for the other side. So at the end of the day, I think that's something that we'll look at. Yeah.
Mr. Jeff?
Yes.
If we don't talk about this, I think we'll take ourselves and that. Thanks a lot for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's really appreciate for the insights.
Yeah.
And I hope our audience learned
For sure.
from this.
For sure.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.